Hi everyone, and welcome to another Shiny Side Out with Dave
and Mackie.
We're part of Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. Join our show by joining us in the chat. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook to get updates between shows, and check out our website for up-to-date guest information, guest bios and previous shows. If you're in the US, you can call in on 347-688-2902, or if you've got Skype, and we'll announce when it's time to call in. But if you've got Skype, add Freedom Screen to Skype and you can join in the chat. Welcome, everyone.
All right, brilliant. We've got another excellent show for you guys. We've got a very special guest today. But before we get to that, I would like to quickly give you an update on last week's show. You might remember, if you cast your mind back, that we mentioned something about articles or newspaper articles regarding Admiral Byrd. He was purported to have given back in 1947. And I asked anyone who had the actual articles to please send them through. Now, lo and behold.
Good news.
One of Dave's buddies has actually found two clippings. And I'm looking at the scannings of that now. So these are scanned, and they will be on our site very, very shortly. So one is actually from El Mercurio, March 5th, 1947, and my Spanish is very poor, but it is the article. So right now I've got a friend translating that for us into English. Not that we don't trust other people, but we like to make sure for ourselves. There's another article from The Worker, page 10. Also of, I'm going to give you the date here. This is 1946, I think it is, December 23, which talks about Shangri-La and the Antarctic and Admiral Byrd as well. It's on page 10, as I said, and it's just really a quarter of a column, but it certainly is another piece of the puzzle, if you will, as to what might be going on in the Antarctic and the Hollow Earth. So look, that's an update, and we are going to have that up for you very, very, very shortly. Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to also have another news story really quick, which was, it came as a bit of a surprise to me. There was a news article put out that Australia was purchasing troops, military troops, Army, Navy and Air Force, from the UK and the US. And I thought that was an unusual activity, given that we're not in wartime and that we've got what appeared to be an overabundance of troops, with, we're all experiencing the same thing, with the diminishing resources or budgets towards the military expenditure. And I thought that was quite a surprising manoeuvre, especially in these times, with the US filling our area, the ASEAN area of the world. So I don't want to dwell on it. You do your Googling, you'll find it. It's something that came as quite a surprise.
Sorry, having said that though, Dave, if you speak to the right people within certain government organizations, they will tell you that we're constantly at war. Okay.
Oh, yeah. There's never a pause.
No.
That's right. And the things that came out about Syria this week, and diplomats being ejected all around the world, that's the fourth or fifth five countries to be announced 7 years ago to be attacked, and the next one after that is Iran. So if that all plays out to be true, we'll see those activities continue, and they'll be on track. And so far, that pre-plan that was documented back in the Bush days is actually still underway. So anyway, well, hopefully, I don't want to see that stuff happen, but it looks like it is, and well, we're still tracking it for you and just giving you updates as we get along.
Yeah, it's a bit scary, but look, we'll keep you updated. As the information becomes available to us as well. So,
But let's talk about our guest.
Please.
All right. Judy Carroll. Now, she's an author and experiencer, Tai Chi and Reiki master, a meditator whose many years of often fully conscious encounters with off-planet visitors known as Greys or Zetas. And in her books, I've got two of them. She was lovely enough to even sign them for me, and I appreciate that so much. She's blessed with deep insights into so-called UFO phenomenon. Now, I don't like so-called because But we'll get to that into the interview. I think we're going to find out more about that. Right? So, is it so-called as in, is it really unidentified? I think we do know where they come from, or what they are, or who they are. And let's get to that. Let's find out from Judy about that. She had a fully conscious daytime encounter. Now that's quite rare in UFO circles, so I can't wait to talk to her about that. In which she recognised the visitors as family. Now that's and also another statement. And it's a very powerful paragraph that, because I don't know that there's many people who are experiencers. Now this is where, in some shows we say, put your tinfoil hats on, strap them on, we're going to talk about something that's, it's right out there. We know that there's a huge segment of the population in every country who are experiencing the same things. Normally just keep it to themselves, don't say anything. And it can be a frightening experience if you're going through it alone. There's groups and communities people put together to help with this experience that people, have, social problems because of it. There's a whole bunch, and I really want Judy to walk us through these things, right?
And I want you guys to remember one thing. We said this in the very first show that we broadcast. There are some things that we encounter in life where we automatically just put our shield up. We automatically laugh at it. We try to diminish it and to make it go away. Essentially, now we also said, please take a moment and ask yourself why that is. Why do you automatically laugh? Why is your first reaction to dismiss? Right? And I think there's an active hand here that will try to keep us from thinking about these things and investigating them further, and in fact admitting that they're happening, even to yourself. So just it's important to have an open mind and question as to why we dismiss things.
One of the things that's being called for from the US majority of people is disclosure. And I always look at this, and I want Judy to come into this in a minute. One of the things is, how does that change? How does it change your perspective on the abduction stories and everything? So, look, without further ado, Judy, welcome onto Shiny Side Out.
Hi, David. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. This is very close to home, everybody, for me. And Judy, I'd like for you to be able to tell everyone about you, right? Whether they've read your book or not. And we've got, by the way, everyone, in Shiny Side Out, we have a link to Amazon for Judy's books. We've got a write-up about them as well, which is taken from our own website, so we're just copying the same detail. So Judy, could you tell everyone about yourself, please?
Yes, David. I was actually brought up Catholic. I was educated in a Catholic convent, and my family background is a combination. I was born in Australia, but my family background is a combination of English, Gypsy, Spanish Gypsy, and South American. And I don't know, from what I've gathered over the years of studying this subject, many people who have tribal backgrounds, for example, the Gypsies, and I know the Australian Aboriginal people and the Native Americans, are all far more open to the possibility of people from other planets visiting Earth than modern Western society is. So perhaps I think really I chose to be born into this background so that I've got a little bit of a head start maybe on a subject that Westerners generally find fairly controversial. What I think I'll do, I'll just talk about, because I have had these experiences since I was a very young child. I wasn't fully conscious of what was happening during my childhood. I was aware that something was going on, and consequently I actually suffered quite a lot of fear as a child. In those days, back here in Australia, no one really knew about ET contact. It was something that wasn't spoken of. I often mention this. I've done quite a few radio internet interviews in America. Mm-hmm. And of course over there, the Roswell event occurred in 1947. So I think probably in America there was more understanding of this side of things. Whether people believed it or not is another matter, but they were a little bit more open to an understanding of it. Whereas here in Australia we had nothing like that. I mean, I was born in 1952 and there was just nothing at all. So I was aware of having this contact, but I had no idea who or what they were. No one had heard of greys or anything. I have a very clear memory still of something that would have occurred around 3 years old, of being taken by a tall, thin woman who I thought of as like a grandmother figure. My own real-life grandmother was living with us at the time, but I knew it wasn't her, but there was that same sort of cosy, familiar feeling. And she took me by the hand and walked up our street, which was a dead-end street, to board a train. Now, for quite a while after this, I remember really enjoying this adventure and asking my real-life grandmother to please take me up the street, to go on this train again. And I was always told, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. It must have been a dream. And so for the next few years, I was sort of torn in two with as I started to grow up, one side of my brain started to become aware, no, there's no railway station anywhere near our house, but the other side of my brain was absolutely certain that I'd been taken on a ride on this train. And we boarded the train up the end of our street. When I finally started, many years later, doing a little bit of reading about so-called ET abduction and the greys and that, I came to understand about these screen images that either in some cases the ETs put them into people's minds, and other cases we put them into our own minds to help us to handle a situation that our conscious human brain wouldn't otherwise be able to handle. And I think I put onto myself. I don't think the ETs did. I think I did. For me, getting onto a train was a big adventure back then, whereas going on board an ET disc, I wouldn't even know what was going on. I don't have a great deal more recall of things that happened in my childhood. I used to often wake up upside down in bed and things like that, but whether that was contact or not, I'm not sure. At 15 years of age, I had the first of the paralysis experiences. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, David?
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah, I know many people who've had contact with ETs do.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very scary experience because I'd gone through my childhood terrified of eyes and puppets, things like that, things that people often have fear of who've had contact with the greys. I remember my mum had a storybook where there was a picture of a cat hiding in a bush with just its eyes showing, and I used to absolutely freak out every time this page came up, so she ended up having to black that out with a pen. And there was another one of a puppet with sort of stick-thin limbs that used to really terrify me, so she ended up having to black that one out as well.
Wow.
But anyway, I can recall I would have been about 15 and I woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't move, absolutely terrified, going through the whole struggling, trying to call out to my parents down the other end of the house. We were actually living in a flat at the time and they were sleeping at the other side of the flat. And the doorknob of the room started turning and I knew there was somebody out there. And I was absolutely terrified. So I lay there trying to call out to my parents, get them to come and see what was going on. And the next thing I just blanked out and woke up the next morning with a memory of what had happened, but no memory of actually anything that went on, while I was asleep. So that was quite an interesting experience. After I was married, we were living out on acreage. I had quite an interesting experience with an owl that haunted us for a few days. But the main experience that I'd really like to go into a little bit more detail was the one you mentioned at the beginning of the program when I was age 30 and I had a fully conscious daytime encounter experience.
Can we pause you there? Because we've got some questions.
Yeah,
this
sure.
Amounts what you've already launched, okay? So I'll start just with I had exactly the same thing with praying mantis.
Okay.
The face of a praying mantis.
Yes.
And the eyes of a praying mantis.
Right.
A fascination, not fear, but I would just stare into them for some time.
Wow.
And my fear was so irrational that I dug a cave in my backyard to hide.
Wow. Yeah.
That I could fit in. My parents go, what on earth's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm hiding from the things that you can't escape from.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Meki, what was...
Sorry, Judy. I've had very similar experiences, obviously not to the level of detail that you've just described, but there are two that I would like to ask you something about, and just your view on it, in fact.
Uh-huh.
The first one, in fact, the first one that I can recall that happened to me happened in Australia as well. We had recently moved here from Germany, and I was sitting in my living room during the day, this was during the day, and I had fallen asleep in the armchair, and then I experienced what people call sleep paralysis.
Right.
And you know what I mean. But I struggled. It felt like, this is going to sound a little strange probably, it felt like something was attempting to, the best way to put it would be enter me.
Uh-huh.
Not physically, mind you.
Yeah.
So I didn't see anything. I just felt it. I struggled and I stopped it from entering me. And I felt very sad afterwards. There was this inexplicable feeling, and I haven't told you this, Dave, this inexplicable feeling of sadness, as though I had missed out on something in a way. Another instance, which was some years later, I experienced, again, sleep paralysis, and this happened a number of times, but this particular time, again, I woke up and I couldn't move, but then I struggled. I saw a shadow in the corner, more like maybe like a black, foggy, misty kind of thing. And as soon as I managed to move again, it swished up, if you will, into the corner of the room. I just wanted your view on these experiences, really.
Okay, well, what's actually happening, I've actually learned quite a lot about this paralysis thing from the Greys since my experience. And what's actually happening is it's when our astral form is disturbed or starts to move out of the body when we're in a very relaxed state. Now, what's important to understand is that this isn't weird or anything. It happens to us every night when we sleep, but we're not aware of it because when we're asleep, we're unconscious and we go off, and that's what a lot of our dreams are, is this astral form leaving the body. But sometimes during, for example, an ET contact experience, the visitor will actually assist us to get out of the body, and sometimes it happens like it's sort of an astral plane experience, so that there might not necessarily be an ET present, but we start to move out of the body, and because we've moved out of the physical body, it's like our astral sight and senses are open, which normally aren't open. And this is when we start seeing things, like you saw the shadow in the corner. Yep. And you can also have like just a passing spirit of some sort of, how can I say, blend with your aura for a moment.
Right.
So that could have been what the sad feeling was. It's like a spirit sort of came into your aura for a while and left its emotions with you.
Right. Okay. But no, look, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you, because people dismiss it and say, oh, it's nothing. Well, it is something, right? And I appreciate your insight here. Thank you.
My sleep paralysis was based around an event with my children, and I was not permitted to assist in what they were experiencing, and when they realized I woke up, I was put back under again. But in that time, I saw the clock. I know what time it is. It happens to be my time when I'm visited, and my partner was unusually unconscious and breathing in a manner that I've never heard before. I've never been awake to hear it.
Yeah.
And she's never, in 25 years, she's never made that sound that I've been aware of.
Right.
So mine, my one matches the one that when I was reading other experiences, stories, and I had a connection with that, but that was in the 80s, and it's the famous one. But it's something that I'm nowhere near as advanced as you are, Judy, with your experiences. So I'd love for you to be able to talk to us about how you can hear it into my voice. Becky, do I sound like the normal me?
No, no, I can hear you going through stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty tough. So why don't you continue to tell us about your experiences too?
Yes, well, look, I'll talk about this one that happened in 1983 because it's certainly going to ring bells with both of you, I think. What happened, we were living on an acreage property at the time, my husband and myself, and my husband's family were out visiting for the day. And during the afternoon, I started feeling a little bit off colour, like I was going to come down with the flu. You know, you start to feel a little bit achy and headachy. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to spoil everyone else's afternoon, so I thought I'll just go upstairs and lie down and rest for a while. I might feel better. So anyway, I went and lay down on a bed in the back bedroom, and the next thing I started becoming paralysed again, this paralysed experience that I hadn't really had since I was 15. I'd had a couple of slight episodes of it, but nothing too much.
And how old were you then?
I was 30. I
Yep.
was 30. And I went into a very deep paralysed state, and I could hear this strange sort of buzzing, roaring sound going on in my head, which was quite unusual. I'd never had that before. It was giving me a headache and felt like the top of my head, which I now realise is the crown chakra, was being opened up. The next thing, I became aware of two of the Zeta-type beings standing beside the bed, and they were fully present, solid third-dimensional reality. Their bodies were blocking some of the light coming through the window. This is probably about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When I became aware of their presence, all my fear suddenly disappeared. Up until then, I'd been really terrified, struggling to pull myself out, thinking, oh, God, someone come and help me. But as soon as I saw them, all this disappeared. And I recognised them, and it was sort of a family recognition. And I also recognised one of them in that he'd been present in a dream that I'd had about a week before. And we'd been sitting on the bank of a stream having a long, very, very close, lovely conversation. I also realised that he was like a teacher who'd been in my life on and off, but I'd never been really consciously aware up until that point. It was at that point I suddenly, okay, now I know who you are. It was quite interesting. I was also aware of another one behind me and something being done to the top of my head. And I think what was happening was my crown chakra was being opened up, and it was like the sound of the astral plane that I was suddenly hearing, which I'd never heard before. Anyway, a conversation followed between myself and the two greys standing beside the bed, during which I was advised that I needed to move from where we were living in the country back to the city. The exact words they used were, "You've spent enough time hiding yourself away out here. It's time you got back to work." Now, as this other teacher and I had discussed during this initial contact I'd had about a week before, I was reminded of the fact that I'm actually one of them, but this time have chosen to be born down here into a human body. And this is why I recognised them immediately as family, and all my fear disappeared at that moment, and I've never had fear since. It was explained to me that it was now time for me to wake up to a deeper conscious awareness of who and what I really am and why I'm here. But I was also told that I still had a lot of study to do on the earth human level of my psyche to be able to carry out this work that I was supposed to be going to do. And also to be able to do it in a way that people here could relate to.
Can I ask you, Judy,
yeah.
Would you describe yourself as what is sometimes referred to as a walk-in or a walk-on?
Yes, I believe this experience was a walk-in.
Right.
Yeah. I was advised during the conversation, I was actually advised to learn meditation. I'd never done anything like that before. As I say, I was brought up Catholic, educated in a convent. So I wasn't into sort of New Age stuff, meditation or anything like that at all. And so this was the advice I was given, that I needed to learn meditation. And it was suggested to me that the best way for me to do this was through Tai Chi, because I'd been a professional dancer. From my gypsy background, I have a great-grandmother who was a flamenco dancer, and I was actually a professional dancer in that field. So, of course, having been a dancer, meditation would have been pretty hard for me to do because I was a fairly physical type of person, so they told me to take up Tai Chi first. And back then, no one knew what Tai Chi was. I hardly knew what it was. I was vaguely aware that it was some Chinese exercise thing, but that was all I knew. But anyway, with the advice they gave me, and natural healing was something else I was told that I needed to learn, and I was told that someday I'd be teaching these things, which really gave me a shock because, as I say, I had no idea of any of these things. Over the next 3 years, circumstances changed quite dramatically for me, and we did move back to town. We'd had no intention of doing this, but it was like things got put into place for us. So just as I'd been told by the Zetas, we did move back to town. And after this happened, a series of absolutely amazing coincidences then began happening, which resulted in opportunities being put in place for me to learn and then to eventually teach Tai Chi. And another amazing opportunity came for me to actually be invited to sit in a meditation circle in which I also learned to do spiritual healing, channeling and automatic writing, which then eventually led to my writing the books. And the healing led me into Reiki, which I now also teach. So it was a real turnaround for me, that 1983 experience. Changed my life completely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Now, when I was reading a book and you were talking about the walk-in. And
yeah.
That was a great question, Mackie.
In fact, once you finish, Dave, I have a follow-on question from that.
Oh, really? No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just waiting for a break. So let's not look, Judy. The thing is, we want to hear you talk as much as possible. Now, can I just ask you? It's just, again, a strange question. I'm sorry it's a selfish one. I have felt never quite right with anything really, and for the longest time I felt that. And this is really a confirmation question, or how one can get confirmation, that I didn't belong here, to be quite blunt. So my question to you is, how can one go about, I guess, to settle that question for oneself?
Yeah, finding out whether you are or not.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, it's really funny because whenever we used to put questions to the grey teachers, they always used to, I mean, they gave us a lot of information. I shouldn't complain, but one of their main things they used to answer with, you have the answer inside. And really, that's what the key to it is. You know deep down inside whether you are or not.
Really? Because, well, if it's a feeling thing, I mean, rather than a certainty, I mean, there's certain strange things that have happened to me in my life, but well, in that case, I have my answer if that really is it, you know. So
yes. I don't know when the feeling started with you, but the experience that you spoke about before, when you had the paralysis experience and felt sad after it. Look, it could have been a walk-in experience then.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the being was coming in and feeling a little bit sad that he was now going to be confined to a human body, you know, which is what happened with me as well.
Okay. Look, I had a very strange thing. I told Dave about this once, where everything, I knew everything. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old under the kitchen table, and for a moment, and I only have the memory of the feeling that it left me with, which is everything is going to be okay. But at that particular moment, I know for a fact that I knew everything, and everything made sense. It was in fact funny. I laughed.
Yes.
Right, as a child, but I have no memory of what actually everything is at all. Only the feeling that it's okay.
Yeah.
And I share the same experience, but it was a later time, and I'm just sad that I didn't ask a question because I felt connected to the entire universe at that very moment. I knew everything, I understood everything, but it was momentary, and I felt like the most love, the feeling of the most love. There was, you know about this, Judy, yourself.
Oh, I know exactly. I felt that when I connected with that teacher the week before the actual walk-in, it was the same thing. We were sitting on the bank of a stream, and he was talking to me, and I had never felt so connected to any other being in my whole life. It was the most amazing experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions from the actual chat room, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These are very interesting questions. There are two. I will ask him, then you can of course think about them. There's this one. I think SJ is referring to the I Ching, which is the Chinese, I guess, aid to. I don't want to say fortune telling, but you know what I mean, the I Ching. And we've got another question from Tones, who asked how specifically the Greys, that is, communicate with you. He said that you said they have exact words for you.
Right, yes. They use telepathy, So it's always telepathic communication.
Okay.
It's a little bit hard because what they do, they don't always use words. They will sometimes drop imagery into your head. And this is the reason why I prefer to do my, like getting their messages across through writing rather than through verbal channeling. I have been trained in verbal channeling, but it's very hard with the Greys because of the way they communicate. It takes you a little bit of time to translate what they're saying actually into human speech.
Is it more like a download?
Yes,
Right.
very much. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a package of information that they send.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible that, not necessarily for you, but maybe other experiences, that maybe too much information is downloaded or given to that person more than they can maybe process?
Oh, look, absolutely. Absolutely. I've had that happen myself, and I've had to make them stand back and just give me time. I remember when we were given the teaching on the human ladder that I speak about in the book, which is a path of evolution that all the human-type species take through the universe. It literally took me months to get that absolutely right, to translate it. It was like a little bit was given, then a little bit too much, I wouldn't understand it, so then I'd have to back up. And it took me a long time to actually understand what they were talking about.
Oh, that's awesome. You have a connection. I'm certainly not shown any of that detail, but I'm shown, I have precog. Do you have precog? Do you yourself see it?
Sometimes, yes. Not always. I mean, I don't even call myself psychic, but sometimes I'll pick stuff up.
Yeah. Could you explain for me, and this is one of the things that you worded very precisely, and I think we've covered it, but I really wanted to just to elaborate on it. And explain for everyone the fear, the unexplainable dread, as you put it, which you attach to odd things at odd times in your life.
Yeah. It's quite interesting that, because it's like it's a physiological reaction of the body. I get a lot of people contacting me who've had ET experiences, and they feel really bad because they freaked out. I think I sort of pick up that with you a little bit too, Dave. You've had this experience and you've absolutely freaked out, couldn't control the fear, and then afterwards you think, oh, gee, I feel bad about it. But I always say to people, don't, because what it's a physiological response of the body. And the ETs understand this. So that's why they try to go as slowly as they can, but at the same time, they're trying to wake us up to the fact that, they're here and we've got to start opening up to a wider perspective past what we can consciously access with our human minds at the moment. And they realise that, that it is asking a lot of us. But, that's what it is. It's just a gut fear.
Yeah, well, I experienced it when I opened the fridge door, and when I closed it, my daughter, who's about 4 foot tall, was standing there, and I had that I was filled with unexplainable fear and dread, and all I wanted to do was get out of there for one moment. Yeah. And then I looked, and I looked more carefully, and I discovered it was my daughter standing there, and it was okay. So it was a connection to something of about the same size and shape. Basically, my brain was telling me something that's not right.
Yeah.
So I think that's long held, that one.
Just that on the fear though, which is quite a real thing. Now, this is a question. This is probably going out for other people there as well. Do you think, Judy, that it is just one group that visits us, and do you think it is if it is not just one group, do you think they're all benevolent?
Oh, there are many, many different ones coming. Yes, the ETs are benevolent. There is negative interference, absolutely, for sure, but it's coming from down here.
Okay, good. Sorry.
There are protections put up around the planet, so no negative ET groups or outside groups per se can actually come in. But I'm not saying that there is negative interference, but from down here or from the astral.
which leads me to my next question. This is actually brilliant because I obviously, looking at this for decades now, one comes to certain ideas that one develops. And one of them is that actually something is here already, has been here for a very, very long time and may very well be interfering with us. So yes. My question would be to you, and you've answered actually in a way, obviously not all of the experiences are necessarily extraterrestrial, correct?
That's right, correct.
Right, okay. And would you say that these non-extraterrestrial experiences or groups have been with us for quite some time?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Great.
So whereabouts? Whereabouts?
Are they located?
Yeah, whereabouts are the ones that contact you? Have they discussed their origins?
Well, the ones that contact me, they're actually they've moved past physical form. It's a little bit hard to explain. We think of the universe as just being physical planets and stars, suns, galaxies, etc. But what is important for people to realise is that the physical part of the universe is very small. The universe is a vast, unlimited reality beyond the physical plane reality that we understand. So the ones that are visiting me and visiting many, many people that we think of as greys or zetas are actually from beyond the physical realms. So they're not just ET, they're actually interdimensional as well.
Yeah, no, we had a show on interdimensional where we discussed the interdimensional travel.
Yeah, that's right.
So we discussed how the possibility of that is quite within our grasp of physics right now.
Yeah,
which is fantastic. So that what I just have to say, Judy, for everyone, we're just hit the bottom of the first hour. What we've got is we have a lovely guest, Judy Carroll, author and experiencer, and just to restate that for those people just joining us. One of the things is that our show is based upon being able to lay stepping stones for people, for them to come to our understanding, and if we can help them get to where we are, it's all the better for them, right? So we lay the stepping stones one step at a time. We put the formwork in there, the groundwork, the research to get our listeners across this. So
we're trying to draw a ball because the thing is this: we can't we can't have things in their own boxes. It can't be a compartment. So we need to make people understand these things are connected. That's what Dave is getting at, and it's a very difficult journey. If you, for example, someone that's interested in Bigfoot, you're probably not interested in UFOs. If you're interested in UFOs, you don't want to hear about ancient tech. If you're ancient tech, you don't want to hear about Atlantis, or maybe you do. Mm-hmm. But the thing is this. I mean, this is a continuum. You're quite right. We're living in maybe in a multi-dimensional universe, Judy. You're correct, and in fact, since the Cartesian age has started, we've become mechanical flesh robots, forgetting our spiritual side, which I think is a great danger to us. But yeah, so we are all about bringing it all together, if you will.
So when, just for everyone else's sake, when they visit you, like when they visit me, I'll explain mine and you can explain yours, and it'll help. It's not that the UFO lands and they get out and then they knock on my door, but we'll talk about knocks in a minute, right?
Yes.
All right. So, and I open the door and I greet them inside and it's all good and we have a little tea party, right? And they say, we're going to do something with you now. Would you like to lie down on and bring their own thing like a portable masseuse? No, right? It's
That's
not
right.
that.
No.
And for me, it's the sudden appearance next to you as though they've stepped interdimensionally from somewhere else in one step and they're now standing next to you.
Yeah.
So how is that with you, Judy?
Well, it doesn't really worry me. I mean, I'm used to it now. I think I've had so much contact with them. And it was interesting because the very first time it happened that I could remember in that 1983 experience, that was what happened. I just suddenly found them there beside me. But it was like that they'd paralysed me to keep me still so that they could, I guess so I couldn't jump up and run away, probably. But it was quite funny. I didn't get a shock. They were just there, and it was, oh, okay, there you are. So I can't really say that I have ever felt that sort of terror as they suddenly appear. Personally, but I know heaps of people do.
Oh, look, it can be surprising, especially when it's something that there isn't, if it's not within their realm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it was a complete stranger that suddenly stepped next to you, they'd be as surprised and startled, but then there wouldn't be an underlying fear of not knowing what and why. So, look, I've got a question on implants. Do you have any?
Oh yes, well all of us do who are going up onto the disc. All the implants they're like interdimensional keys to assist in changing our vibrational frequency. They also assist with communication. They're like they monitor our energy system. They've actually got three reasons. A lot of the technology and things to do with the greys have three. They always go for the number three. So the three reasons for the implants is they monitor our energy system, and they're generally placed in our chakra system, in our energy system. And they help to heal and balance. Health problems actually arise from imbalances within the energy system, and this is how things like Reiki and acupuncture work. They rebalance the energy system. So the ET implants, the genuine implants, do this. They help to bring our energy system back into balance and can potentially heal things that may be going to arise in the future. They also can monitor the effects of pollution, emotional states, things like that, our evolutionary progress, etc. The second thing they do is they raise our energy frequency to allow us to access higher dimensions, for example, to go on board the disc. It's sort of like a cosmic boarding pass. And they also help to make us more creative by balancing the right and left hemispheres of the brain. And the third thing they do is they assist the communication between down here and up there, enabling easier communication to happen. The genuine implants normally are not physical. They're normally of a higher frequency. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the ones that are physical? I mean, obviously some experiencers and abductees have found, I guess, metal-like objects within their body they couldn't explain. Would that be from the people that are here, like the people that are interfering?
Yes, more likely.
Right.
I'm not saying absolutely. I mean, there may be some physical ones put in by the ETs, but generally they're not.
Understood.
Because I always felt the ones that I have are for tracking or something like that.
Right.
Because I've moved my arm.
Yeah. Yes, I have done mine.
Yeah, see?
and you know what, Dave? Judy has maybe got a point. I mean, obviously, the experiences you have are quite real, and potentially the people that are here interfering with that and offering the negative energy, if you will, may be tracking you to understand what is happening to you.
To me, exactly.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
I love that.
Well,
that's gold.
But you know, it makes sense because the thing is this: I don't think it's a simple thing, and I think human beings at large have been suppressed in our capabilities. I think we are nowhere near where we should be. And
Absolutely.
I think there's a deliberate dampening field, I call it. In the movie They Live, which I love, it says we sleep, they live. I do believe that most of us are asleep most of the time.
Yes,
Not being able to perceive the world as it really is, right? And sorry, Dave. So I think they might be tracking you.
I'm positive of that. Hey, Judy. So what when you moved back to the city?
Yeah.
Let's take it back. So you've moved from the country to the city.
Yeah.
And so what did you do next?
Okay, well, we'd only been in our new house about a week, and I was down at the local shopping centre, and I saw a poster advertising Tai Chi classes in the window of one of the shops. So, of course, I remembered straight away that I'd been told I had to learn this, so I made sure I took down the phone number and phoned the teacher, and the following week I took my first class in Tai Chi, which I absolutely loved. As soon as I started it, I knew, okay, I'm coming home here. This is what I want to do. And then the next thing that happened was the house next door to us was rented. And the people who were in it left, and some new people came in, a husband and wife from down south in Tasmania. And I took a pot full of herbs over as sort of a housewarming gift for them to welcome them to their neighbourhood, not knowing whether they liked anything like that or not. And the lady was absolutely thrilled, and she said, "Oh, herbs! Oh, I'm right into herbs. Do you know anything about the Bach flower remedies?" Which, of course, I'd never heard of, so we got talking. Turned out she was a spiritualist, and she'd been meditating for about 10 years, and her teacher was actually starting a group up within about 2 weeks. This lady was a minister with the Spiritualist Church, a lady by the name of Irene, lovely, lovely lady, and she was starting up a closed circle. And I was absolutely, totally blown away, because the next thing was they invited me to join. Now, I don't know, people might not know very much about this who aren't into spiritualism, but in the Spiritualist Church they have 2 types of circles. They have what they call open circles and closed circles. And generally, for beginners like me who'd never meditated, you would have to go into an open circle just to get used to meditating. You do a short meditation of about 15, 20 minutes or something. And then after a few years, once you'd shown your dedication to it, then you may, if you were lucky, be invited to join a closed circle. So I was quite blown away that I was invited into this closed circle. So I took part in this for about 8 years, and we used to meet every Monday night, and it was absolutely my sacred time. Nothing would ever come between me and my circle meetings. I just loved it. And we used to meditate for at least an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And, of course, you need that time to get down to a deep enough state. To be able to, for example, do channeling or whatever you want to do. And it was while I was in this circle that the Greys started sending these messages through, and I was told to write them down. So it was like almost an automatic writing technique that I was trained in. In all these years I was in the circle, I was given about 1 a week, so many, many messages came through. And it was from there that the writing of the books came to be. And during that time, these messages kept coming through, and it was like the Greys were educating me on what they were about, what was going on, etc. But I had to be a little bit careful in this group, because back in those days, people were a little bit scared of the Greys. There was a lot of negative stuff being put out about them. And even while I was sitting in this group, I didn't realise who and what they were, because others in the group would talk about ETs, and they were always sort of in that tall, blonde, blue-eyed space brother type mode.
The Nordics.
Yeah, the Nordics.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, well, that must be what ETs look like, so therefore the ones I'm having aren't ETs. And it took me a long time to really get a grip on, a handle on exactly who they were. And it was quite interesting, because when my Grey teacher used to come into the circle, because he knew that if he'd appeared as a Grey, everyone would have freaked out. So he used to just appear in a more human-looking form. But the Grey teachers wear like black robes, like a black cape and hat and things. And he used to stand behind me, and the lady who was running the group, Irene, could see him, and she used to say to me, "Oh, you had that priest standing behind you again." They actually do. They look a little bit like priests. So, they all thought he was a priest.
So, since we're talking about the appearance, this seems like a great segue for another question we've had. This is I call it the Star Trek conundrum. Why do most, visitors appear humanoid? 2 arms, 2 legs, bisymmetrical eyes, nose, mouth. What is your take on that particular thing?
Well, they are humanoid beings. There are many, many different types of humanoids throughout the universe, and the Greys are human. I know we talk about, oh, we're human and they're ETs or aliens, and they hate that term alien. They really don't like it.
Okay.
They prefer to be called Greys or ETs or visitors or whatever. But they're still human.
Right, so the predominant life form then, and this might just be, who knows why, but seems to be a humanoid shape then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
That's great news.
It is. We've also felt, sorry Dave, that because it is humanoid, and in fact we have some evidence of ancient tech and so forth, that if we go out there, we are pretty much meeting ourselves in some instances as well. Would you think that is a possibility?
Oh, look,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we're meeting the relics.
Yes.
And it's quite funny, talking about human life form through the universe, because we were talking about this with one of the grey teachers once. And he said, people think that we look so strange because our faces are a different shape and we have the large eyes and that. But he said if people could see some of the other life forms out in the universe, they'd realise we were just really, really ordinary looking.
When my mother passed away, and at her funeral, just 3 years ago, at her funeral, I had no clue when I grew up who my mother's friends were that used to meet weekly. We had a room in the house that was the nice meeting room, like the nice lounge room that we could never sit in. I could never sit in as a kid, not allowed to touch it. And I found out that she was conducting a circle. And she had a closed circle.
Wow.
And she was doing this. And it stems from this. And I met all the people in the circle. And she used to call it a circle. I had no idea and no interest whatsoever to do anything with it. But it has two things, two questions that come from that. And one is the family bloodline, or maybe, multiple lives, like, how you can come back reincarnation. So one question is that. And the other one is that my mother would refer to messages and things that would come outside of the circle as from upstairs.
I use that term too.
Yeah. So say we're driving in a car park and you can't see outside of the lane that you're in, or the section of the car park. And she would go, "Oh, thanks." and I go, "What?" I didn't say anything. She goes, "Oh no, they've just said there's a car space 2 rows over, and there it is."
Wow, yeah.
Right, so she was able to see from above. There was obviously messages coming through.
It's very specific help, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you were given those same instructions. Go to the city.
Yes.
You've had enough time.
Yes.
So let's go forward now. So what happened next? You've got your circle, and you've mentioned in your book about the teacher that has stayed with you.
Yes, well, that was Morris. I got to know him as Morris, the particular grey elder teacher who has been working with me all my life. Yes, I sat in this circle for about 8 years, and then in 1995 I had a chance to go over to the UK. We actually had a family reunion there, and my brother contacted me and said, "Oh, would you like to come over?" So, "Oh, great, that sounds good." So anyway, before I went over, my meditation teacher, who was a very good psychic, said to me that this trip that I was going to go on, she said, sorry, I have to backtrack here. I'm losing my time a bit. I get all over the place. The first time I met her, she told me that I would be making a trip overseas and that I would be connecting back to my family roots. And this was right back in about 1987 or something when I first met her. Anyway, in 1995, this came to pass in that we went over to the UK for a family reunion. And I remembered Irene's words, and I said to her, "Oh, look, you're right. You know what you told me? Yes, we're going to a family reunion over there. So what you told me is exactly right. Oh, you told me that all those years ago." Anyway, she said to me, "Yes, Judy, it is right." But she said, "What you don't understand, it's on other levels. It's not just physical family. You've got to make another connection over there." So anyway, I had no idea what she meant. But anyway, it turned out that my cousin's husband, her cousin who lives over there, her husband is what's called a rescue archaeologist. And his particular area of study was a stone circle on the border of Warwickshire and Oxfordshire, which is called the Rollright Stones.
Yep.
So anyway, we contacted this cousin because, of course, she'd be at the family reunion, and she said, "Oh, what do you want to do over there? Do you want to, what do you want to see?" So I said, "Look, I'd love to go around and see some sacred sites. I'd love to see Stonehenge, love to see Avebury." So she said, "Oh, okay, look, we'll take you there, but you must come to Rollright because it's sort of in the family. Like her husband was a caretaker there. He's the head of the board of trustees who looks after the circle." And it's a particularly sacred circle. It's one of the oldest ones in Britain, and it was like a centre for the craft of the wise, what they call Wicca these days. It was a major centre back in hundreds of years ago.
I've just pasted the Roll Rate Stones pictures in the chat room.
Oh, brilliant, yes. Anyway, we happened to be there on the day of the summer solstice, and I happened to be in the circle at 12 noon on that day. And this wasn't pre-planned or anything. It was all totally by accident. And anyway, I got to stand in the centre of the circle, and it was just lovely. And I went off, just allowed myself to meditate, and it was a lovely, lovely experience. And came home, forgot all about it, and got on with my life. Anyway, when I got back to Australia, I started feeling a little bit strange. And first I put it down to jet lag. It's a bit fuzzy in the head and that. But what I found was when I was doing things like Tai Chi and meditation, I was reaching much more profound states. So anyway, about 3 weeks after we got back from overseas, I had a very, very profound, what I guess you could call a dream, but it was obviously a real experience one night, when the Gray family came to fetch me and took me back over there, lay me down in the middle of this circle, and this massive long needle was produced of, probably about 18 centimetres long or something, and it had this huge, absolutely gorgeous crystal on the end of it, this like aqua sort of blue-coloured faceted crystal. And I was held down on the ground, and this crystal was plunged into my third eye chakra, which really, really hurt. So, of course, I yelled and screamed, ow, ow, take it out, which luckily they did straight away. And then I blanked out. Anyway, I woke the next morning with a very clear memory of this happening, and went and checked in the mirror, and sure enough, I had a red mark on my third eye, exactly where this needle had gone in. So I realised that it had been an encounter experience, and so I started sort of trying to link back into it and asking what had gone on, because at that point I couldn't quite remember, and then slowly started filtering through that during the experience, or during the encounter, the Greys had actually asked me to look at writing a book about them, because they said people complain that we can't communicate, that we won't communicate with them. And the trouble is, when people are up on the disc, they're in such a state of fear, communication is extremely difficult. So they made the request that I write a book, but written not from the human perspective, as all the other books at that stage had been written on ET contact. They wanted me to write it from the Zeta's perspective. So this was how my so-called fiction book, Human by Day, Zeta by Night, came into being. This is the reason actually why it was presented as fiction, because of the fact that it was written from their perspective, and back then there was quite a lot of information was put into it that I felt people wouldn't have felt real comfortable with back then, and so that's the reason behind that. When the publisher in America, Granite Publications, took it up, they said, well, maybe it should be marketed more as a docudrama, and because it was really based on their true book, The Zeta Message. So it's a companion volume to that, but covering a huge amount of information, massive information that we've been given.
Oh, that's just awesome. Hey, Judy, we're just going to find out within the next minute whether we're going to hit a halfway ad break. Short ad break, and then come back on.
Yeah, please, nobody go away, guys.
Yeah, please don't. I'll just take this opportunity. You're listening to Shiny Side Out on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, www.freedomslips.com. Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for that short break, Hawk. We're Shiny Side Out, and I'm Dave.
And Mackie's over here as well.
Hey, and we have a special guest in with us today. It's Judy Carroll, author and experiencer, author of, was it Human by Day, Zeta by Night?
Human by Day, Zeta by Night.
That's right.
And the Zeta Message.
And it's Zeta Message, that's right. I've got a question. Have they told you what they'd like to be referred to as?
Yes, this was actually one of the first things that was asked of them. Because in those days everyone was talking about them as aliens and greys, and we said that once, what would you like to be called? And the answer that came through from one of them by the name of Boris was, he said, look, we don't mind, you can call us Zetas, you can call us greys or visitors or whatever, but please don't call us aliens. They get quite upset about that.
Nice. I'll have to change the T-shirts.
That's a fair point.
Don't worry, they do have a sense of humour.
Which makes it quite human, right, in a way.
Well, absolutely, yes.
And we had some very interesting questions from the chat room, and one that I wanted to ask as well. I've heard from a number of different sources and different media that initially the disclosure responsibility was given to the United States, but that may have moved to potentially China. We just wanted your view on I guess, full disclosure and if that is going to happen on a global scale or not, and who might be the messenger.
Well, it's really hard to say because the Greys aren't into giving out future messages at all because, as they say, everything in the future is just a possibility. Mm-hmm. So really what they're doing, they're just monitoring what's happening down here. And no doubt they'll come forward when the time's right. But there's no firm plans on it as far as I know.
Right. And do you another question which comes directly from this, what's your take on why only select people have been chosen? Now, let me be clear though to everybody on the radio listening. I think the phenomenon is massive. And I think we're all here. And not everybody comes forward. Maybe not everybody remembers. And only a few people have come forward with full memory. Certainly, you, Judy, are an exception in your communications and what you recall and your work that has been, well, up to this point in any event. So why do you think only certain people have chosen, bearing in mind that we think it's a pretty big phenomenon? It's actually a choice that we make ourselves before we come back here. It's important to understand that on planet Earth, which is what the Greys refer to as a level 1 planet, people can only access 10% of their conscious awareness. The rest is subconscious, superconscious, whatever. So very, very few people have any memory of between life states. Now, people who are being contacted at the moment have made a free will choice in their between life state before birth into this present life. But many, many people don't remember this. Also, bloodlines do, I'm sure, have something to do with it because we are certainly related. And so, yeah, certain bloodlines. What the Greys are actually doing, they're upgrading our DNA. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So go on, please.
Yeah,
I'm advanced to what extent, Judy?
Well, look, what I'll do, I think perhaps if I explain this human ladder, it'll help to explain about the DNA upgrade and what's actually happening, where we're going down here as humans.
Oh, awesome.
The human ladder is a term that the Zetas use for the path or cycle of evolution, which is followed by all human-type species through the universe. Now, this human ladder is comprised of 10 what they call galactic levels. But they're not galaxies or physical places as such. They're actually ascending levels of expanding conscious awareness. This took me a long time to get my head around when they were trying to explain this to me. Because when they said 10 galactic levels, I thought, no, that doesn't make sense. There's not 10 galaxies. There's far more galaxies in the universe than that. And this is what happens where a lot of misunderstanding comes in with the Zetas and people communicating with them. They'll say something, but you've got to really go in and interpret it on deeper levels rather than just taking a shallow outer meaning of it. So these galactic levels are actually expanding levels of conscious awareness. Now, Earth humans, Earth is on rung number 1 of the ladder, which is the bottom rung. So we're able to access approximately 10% of our potential conscious awareness. Now, I emphasise the word conscious because this is the key to where we're evolving as humans. Our evolution is not a physical evolution, it's a spiritual and mind evolution. So as we progress up through the 10 levels, and this is over the span of many, many, many lives, more and more DNA will be activated, and through this we'll be able to consciously access and perceive higher energy frequencies. So in other words, we'll eventually be consciously aware, just as now we're aware of our third dimensional reality in which we operate here on Earth, we'll eventually be able to be consciously aware of much, much higher dimensions. Now, the greys that are communicating with us are on levels 5 to 8, so that means they're able to access 50 to 80% of their conscious awareness. And the ones we think of as angels, people talk about angels down here, but what they actually are, they're just very, very highly evolved, a humanoid type species on levels 9 to 10. So in other words, they have 90 to 100% of their conscious awareness. Wow. So in other words, they're like fully awakened to what could be called divine or cosmic awareness or consciousness. So that's where we're heading as humans, but it takes a long, long time.
What graduates us from one level to the next?
Well, we work our way through reincarnation. That reincarnation, human evolution is hinged on reincarnation. So what we're doing, we just keep reincarnating, learning more and more, opening up to more and more possibilities. And then the ETs, of course, are helping us as well by activating more of our DNA. Going back to humans of Earth having 10% conscious awareness, we also have about 10% of our DNA activated. The two go hand in hand. And so as more of our DNA is activated, so more of our conscious awareness will awaken.
On that, this is a fascinating subject to me, because my research has gone in a very similar direction. So is it possible, do you think, that maybe some of us, it's hard to explain, have devolved and now we have to re-evolve?
Yes, absolutely, because many people who are living on this planet have come from other planets. You know, we're not all native to Earth. A huge number have. There are some who have been developed here as a native species, but not all. And so there are many ETs down here in human bodies who, yes, they certainly have. They've lost stuff. You know, a lot of people are aware of this, that they had more earlier on and they've lost it.
Right, okay. No, that's very important, because a lot of the mystery schools have passed that kind of knowledge from master to student, and only now, which seems to be a critical time, is this knowledge becoming more widely available. On that, do you think, as has been put forward by some other researchers, do you think of Earth as somewhat of a, I don't want to be too harsh,
a nursery?
Well, actually, be harsher than that. More like a prison, like a prison where we are kept from reaching our full potential by whomever is here already.
Oh, look, absolutely, and that's a huge amount of what the ETs are down here about. It's to wake us up,
right?
To free us.
Because that's what we're doing this with our show, and you're doing this with your books as well.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. People have forgotten. They need to be woken up. That's one of the key phrases that people hear in contact with the Greys. We're here to wake you up. It's time for you to wake up.
Yes.
Do you know, I have to tell you something really funny. When you talk about calling, and one of my bosses, he's a recent boss, he called me in the office, and this was before my radio, and he would just sit there and not say a word. That's the most uncomfortable silence I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to be silent. And I would just start chat. I'd start a chat, get a common ground, expand upon it, it's all good. And he said, you know what, you don't have to fill silence with talk. And I thought about that for a minute. I go, actually, yes, I do. I really do. And it wasn't until we pitched this show and we got picked up, and it's fantastic that I recalled that conversation. And in fact, dead air is dead air. You need to say things, and I still laugh. I still laugh about that. And the funny thing, Judy, with the station we're on right now, is that we all have gravitated towards this. in recent times. Every one of us that's in here has, and I can just see all the people in the chat room, each one of us, we talked about this the other day, we've all gravitated, we've all had that, it's like not pre-programmed, but we have, what was it, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where all that French guy's interviewing those people that just turned up, and he goes, why have you come here? It's going to endanger your life. I just don't know. I had to do it. Are you finding the same kind of thing with people who are becoming awake to this?
Oh, look, absolutely. It's so interesting. Since I've had the books published, I have had so many emails from people. People who are going through that same sort of thing, not quite knowing what's going on, but knowing there's something and they're dying to know what it is, and they're desperate to know. And the other lovely thing is that so many emails have come through. The problem is that there's a lot of disinformation being put out down here about the ETs. And so these poor people trying to find out something what's going on with them, so they go onto the internet and there's so much negative stuff, disinformation. And I've had many, many emails saying, look, thank you so much for putting something positive out there. Because, really, it is a real Armageddon situation down here at the moment. We are being asked to choose between love and fear. And I mean, to put it into fundamentalist Christian terms, love's God and fear's Satan. I mean,
And that's very important. And the key thing is, and again, this is why, I mean, you say love and people automatically will smirk, they'll smile, they'll laugh. But the truth is very simple, right? If we all loved each other like we wanted to be loved and treat each other like the way we want to be treated, this would be a pretty good place.
It would.
Go on.
Yeah, it would, absolutely. And the whole of human evolution hinges on this choice between love and fear. Are you going to be pulled into the fear, which keeps you devolved, or are you going to choose love, which raises your vibrational frequency, which is what human evolution and spirituality is all about?
Yeah. And it's up to us to break that cycle. So if someone kicks you, you know what? Don't kick back, guys. Right? You have to break the cycle somewhere, and which is really what comes to be a major topic right now, right? So with 2012 approaching, there's a lot of negativity, like you just said, right?
Yes. And when we talk about 2012, we're talking about the Mayan prophecy.
So of course, sorry, I should say that. Yeah. No, it's not just the Mayan prophecy, though.
I know.
There are other things that are leading to a head. I mean, the similar thing happened in the year 2000. In the year 2012, now, I've got obviously views on that to this day. What do you think, Judy, will or will not occur in or around 2012?
Oh, look, I've had a lot of teaching on this from upstairs, I'm using the expression. What I'll do, I'll just talk about that a little bit, because
please.
As I mentioned before, what's happening with the human ladder, planet Earth is actually in the process of stepping up or evolving to a higher vibrational frequency. The planet itself is. Now, this is a gradual change that's been ongoing for many years and will continue for some time yet. We're actually stepping from level 1 to level 2. Now, this process is accelerated at various points along the way by certain astrological alignments. And these alignments act like keys or catalysts to initiate further energy boosts. Now, there's a very, very major one of these due to occur on the 21st of December 2012 or thereabouts. And it's a little bit like the Renaissance period in Europe. It's going to be a big stepping up of vibrational frequency. I don't know, people may not have heard of what they call the Schumann resonance. This is actually, as far as I understand, it's the vibrational frequency of the planet. And apparently the Navy and Air Force and Army, etc., have calibrated their instruments on the Schumann resonance over many, many years. And it stayed very steady for a long, long time. But over the past 10, 20 years, it's leapt up hugely from about 7 point something to about 13. So the vibrational frequency of the planet has increased, and it has been scientifically measured.
Sorry, just to quickly, guys, this is actually really, really important. What Judy just said is something that can be scientifically verified. Okay, this is sorry, Judy, we try to make it as real for our listeners as we possibly can. So this is a very important point. Please go on.
Yes. So what's happening? The vibrational frequency of the planet is rising, and it has been measured. Now, what's happening? Humanity also needs to evolve to a higher frequency level in order to remain in harmony with our home planet. So people down here are going through quite a lot of changes and upheavals as a result of this. Now, some are making the changes easily and some are not. So the ETs are here from various planetary systems and dimensions to assist the process by helping to balance and harmonise the energies of both planet and people. And this is where things like the crop circles come in. They're like symbols to help balance the energy of the planet. Now, evolution in the human kingdom is all about making a free will choice between love and fear. And of course, fear is expressed through such things as divisiveness, religious intolerance, racism, all the lower emotions, jealousy, hatred, ego, greed, etc. Whereas love is expressed through oneness, unity, acceptance, non-judgment, tolerance, respect towards others, etc. So if people down here wish to evolve along with their planet, then they must choose love. That's the choice that's being put to them. And this, in turn, is the key to opening the mind to a more expanded and deeper state of conscious awareness, which is what evolution in the human kingdom is all about, whereas fear stops that happening.
And fear is a great suppressor, isn't it? But
yeah.
It seems to me that it's a more easily stimulated or accessed emotion than love or contentment. And is this part of our makeup, do you think?
Yes, I think so. And the fact that it's more easily stimulated than love. I remember once one of the teachers sent a message through about that, and he was saying, to choose fear, you just sort of go along with the mob like a jellyfish being washed backwards and forwards with the tide. Whereas to choose love and positivity, you've actually got to make an effort to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
And they nail you to a cross for it, I hear, right?
Yeah.
So, look, I don't mean to be flippant, but this is the truth of it. People throughout time that have said, hey, you know what, let's just not kill each other anymore, right? They were usually the ones that got killed first. And it's a terrible, terrible thing. And I do believe that you're absolutely 100% correct. And there's something or someone here that wants to keep us in fear for whatever purpose. And we will go into that in some other shows as well. But Judy, this can I just say thank you very much. All of this is just really fantastic information.
Yeah, we're in the field of getting more information. The more information we can get, the better it is, and the more we can pass on. The standpoint of ours broadens to be able to explain it to people as well. Look, I've got a question this is one of my own questions. How long do the Greys themselves live for?
Oh, well, it's really hard to say that, David, because they don't think of death as being an end like we do. So
they live in a container.
Yeah. So and many of them are in a semi-artificial container, and so those containers can last for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then when the container reaches the end of its shelf life, so to speak, they just step out of it and move into another one. So I remember we actually asked Oris, one of the teachers, once how long he'd been around, and he said, about 1 million, 2 million years, because they don't measure life, life and death. It's just one continual life to them because of the fact that they're open to these higher levels of consciousness and they're not confined to the limitations of physical consciousness.
On that consciousness, and this is thanks for that question, Dave, as well on the longevity. Do you think that Edgar Cayce may have had access to higher levels of consciousness, like something like the Akashic record?
Oh yes, absolutely. Many psychics do. They can get into the Akashic records. It is just important to understand, but the Akashic records have actually been tampered with, so it's not necessarily right what people get through from the Akashic records.
Sorry, I wasn't aware of that. That, in fact, is super fascinating to me. Sorry to dwell on this. When you say tampered, what is the nature of the tampering, and who do you think might have tampered?
Well, I actually talk about this a little bit in the book. A group I talk about as the Controllers. They're a very ancient group who have been here for a long, long time. They were originally off planet, but have been here for thousands of years, if not millions. But yes, they can actually, how can I say, tamper with the astral plane of Earth.
Oh, okay.
And the Akashic records are in the astral plane.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore the history of the planet that's held in the Akashic records isn't always necessarily exactly accurate, because there has been some tampering done with that.
Oh. Sorry, for our listeners, just quickly, we should explain what the Akashic record is, maybe. Dave?
Yeah, no, I wanted you.
Okay. So essentially, guys, the Akashic record is a collection of, and I'm sure I'm putting it in elegantly, and correct me, Judy, if you will. It is a collection of all memories and thoughts and information on planet Earth by beings that are capable of producing those thoughts and memories. That's essentially the Akashic record.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Great. So it is literally a library of our planet and all the experiences that have gone before, and to some extent even future, even though the future is in a quantum state, if you want to talk it that way, in uncertainty. But Judy, I had no idea that this tampering was actually possible. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So I have another question, and you mentioned this a couple of times already, and one of those is they've been here for thousands, even longer, of years. Where is here? I know that they're tending Earth.
Yeah.
But do they give you any? And is it just that they're out of dimension and we can't see them? Are they? And one of the questions comes up a lot in this and in other shows as well. Is it? That are they living in the Antarctic? Are they on the moon? Where? Do you know where? Is there any? I don't want them to. Don't really reveal their location. It's going to be detrimental to them. But is it like interdimensional? Is it that they're here? They occupy the same area as us?
Yes, it's interdimensional. With the actual, the greys are interdimensional, but yes, they can come down here in physical form. So yes, it's sort of yes to all those questions. There are inner Earth groups as well. But there's many different groups, and some are physical, some are interdimensional, some are inside the Earth, some are around the Earth. So yeah, many different ones.
Because the other one was we know that there's different ones here. Do they follow an area or regionally? There was a documentary that I saw about Alaska, and it had a completely different species that I'd be familiar with. I've seen a couple of the jagged black edge shadow people, and also the greys or zetas, whichever prefers me to call them, other than aliens. Do you know of any others as well, or have they spoken about any others?
No, not a great deal. I haven't spoken about a lot of that. With us, most of the teaching we've received is more about energy, human evolution, etc., like that. Not so much about the different species that are down here. I mean, I'm aware that there are a lot of different ones. Mm-hmm. I haven't actually had experiences with any of the others. I've only had experiences with the greys.
Okay, and you refer to them as zetas because of the origin of Zeta Reticuli. Is that the connection to that?
Not quite. Some of them come from there, but they've actually come up through many different physical planets, including Earth. I mean, some of them have been Earth humans. Some have come through the Zeta Reticuli system. Some have come through the Sirian, Pleiades. They've come up through all those planetary systems, and they've now moved beyond that physical type planetary existence.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. They don't rely on that at all anymore.
No.
Or they have no need. Oh, that's wonderful.
And would it be fair to say that, since we're talking about, I guess, higher dimensional experiences, that we've now come to believe that space itself might be an illusion, right? You've got quantum entanglement and all these things. So obviously in that higher dimensional state, the appearances, disappearances of these beings is simply because in reality, in a higher reality, there really isn't any such thing as maybe distance between points. Is that maybe true?
Yeah.
Go on.
We just find it very hard to even visualize what these higher dimensions are like. You know, it's beyond our conscious ability to even visualize. Yeah, so it's very hard to even describe, you know, to put in third-dimensional words what high-dimensional reality is like.
We have tried. We have tried.
We're aware of Flatland.
Yeah.
The story, Judy, do you know about the two-dimensional land where the three-dimensional person picks one of the 2D people up and shows them their own environment? But it's So we've discussed that on the show. We know how difficult that can be to try and explain it. We did hypercubes. That's even more complicated for people to understand. But we gave it a good shot. Right?
Yes. No, and it is true. We are limited to this experiential environment, you know. And in dreams, though, I believe when we are in the you've actually in fact spoken about this in the beginning of the show. When we dream. Yeah. We are able, and I believe this to be 100% true, we are not all dreams are the same, but we're able to lift ourselves out of this very limited container into a higher dimensional experience. Everything makes sense in your dream while you're dreaming it. When you wake up, it doesn't make any sense at all, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's almost like with our physical life, we're in a boat traveling along a narrow river. But when we lift up out of our body, go up into our astral form or higher, it's like we're in a helicopter up above the river. So we can actually look down and see where we are, but we can see ahead around the bend and we can see behind where we have been. So, you know, our whole perspective opens up.
Yes, that's actually a very good analogy, Dave. Let's remember that, shall we? No, really, it is. Because it is one of the toughest things. Because, again, yourself, of course, having had a lot of experience, having done this for quite a long time, Dave and myself as well. And people come up to me and say, you know, I really like listening to what you're saying, but, you know, you lose us, or you lose me because I don't understand this. And then when I'm trying to look it up on the net, you've already spoken about 3 other things I don't understand. And having analogies like this that make it accessible to people, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, trying to bring it down to third-dimensional understanding.
Absolutely.
And of course that's not possible.
Well, we try. We try.
Absolutely. Now, Judy, in all of your meetings with the teacher, what can you tell everybody? What would they like you to tell people?
Well, as I mentioned before, they always like things in threes. So really, the 3 things that they're trying to get across is oneness. That's the first concept, that we're all created in God's image, or the image of source. They refer to God as oneness or source. And all this really means that we're created in God's image. What this means is that we all share the same universal energy or consciousness, no matter what planet we call home. So there's no them and us. They're not aliens. We're all one. Earth humans, Zetas, Pleiadians, etc. We all share the same stream of God or source consciousness. The second thing, they're trying to wake us up to the fact that we're all immortal souls. So we are an intrinsic part of God or source. And acknowledging this consciously enables us to tap into our own power within, our own God centre. And this, in turn, helps us break through the limiting fear barriers to reach a state of pure unconditional love. And some of the fear experiences that the Greys put us through is to force us to do this. It's like pushing us beyond the fear barrier to find love on the other side. The third thing, they want us to try to perceive things more deeply, to see past the shallow outer layer of any given situation. And they've always said that to us. Always look for 3 reasons. The ETs don't see reality in terms of physical matter. They see it in terms of energy. And things are not always as they appear on the outside, but on Earth that's how we tend to perceive reality to be, limited by a narrow third-dimensional awareness. And the ETs are trying to help us to move beyond this, but it can potentially be very daunting.
And on that, and this is a great segue to a question we just received from the chat room, I have had some experience with ancient teachings which talk about opening the third eye and the actual location of the third eye, which is not the middle of your forehead, I was taught, but rather, I can't say where it is, because that's part of the conditions, but it's not the middle of your forehead. Now, but talking about the third eye and the potential pineal gland connection, have you had any insight into opening it up, or what the actual connection to the pineal gland is there?
Just come again with that, Mickey. I didn't quite catch it.
Okay, sorry. So this is about the opening up of the third eye.
Yeah,
essentially, right? And obviously there's something called the pineal gland, which just sits at the top of our brain, or the front, I should say. Have you received any information from the teachers regarding the opening of the third eye, or how the pineal gland plays a role there?
Well, I understand that was sort of what happened to me when I was over at the Circle in the UK, at the Stone Circle. This needle was actually put into the area of my forehead between the eyebrows and just a little bit higher, where I woke up with a mark the next morning. So there was obviously some sort of stimulation work done there. The other thing is, apparently, I didn't know this, but someone was telling me the other day that apparently there's an initiation ceremony that the Australian Aboriginal, like shamans, medicine men are put through, and this also involves a crystal, I'd say it's like on a higher level astral plane or something, a crystal being inserted into their third eye. Now, this is quite interesting because when this happened to me over in the Circle in the UK, as I mentioned, there was this huge crystal on the end of the needle. And this crystal was in this blue colour, which corresponds to the colour that my particular Zeta teacher works with, which is blue. All Zeta teachers, actually, when they connect with us, they will show us a colour. And it corresponds to one of the chakras that we need to work on in our present life. Now, I need to work with my throat chakra because of doing interviews like this, communication, creative communication. And so I work with a teacher who works with that colour blue and that chakra. So he's actually given me a lot of healing in that area. And that was the colour crystal that was sort of downloaded into my third eye at that stage.
Right.
Have you had any other forms of physical intervention like that?
Oh yes, one of the very first experiences I remember when not long after I started sitting in a meditation group, I had an experience one night where Maris, my teacher, came in and started massaging all around my mouth and face. And the Greys have got very long, thin fingers, and I could feel his fingers going right down into my throat. It was the most amazing sensation, and it wasn't unpleasant. You'd think, oh, it'd choke you, but it wasn't like that. It was actually quite relaxing, and it was sort of a little bit like sitting back in a dentist chair, but it was pleasant. Sometimes my head was leaning back against his body, other times he'd come around to the front of me, and he was massaging all around, and it happened on a Monday morning. And that night, when I was sitting in a meditation group, I hadn't at that point had a chance to tell the leader of the group about this, but during meditation, she said, oh, Judy, she said, it's just amazing. She said, someone was there, it looked like they were giving you a facial, they were massaging all around your mouth. So she actually picked it up during the meditation in the evening.
Wow.
Oh, it was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the book. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, and like that wasn't, and you said it wasn't an uncomfortable experience, and it's like someone massaging your muscles in your back or your leg. They just know what they're doing, and it's not unpleasant.
That's right. Oh, I could feel that with him. He knew exactly what he was doing, and his fingers knew where they needed to go, and they were nice and long, so they could reach right down inside my throat. And yeah, it was just incredible.
On that, do you think it's important how we treat ourselves then, like our physical bodies, the things we eat, for instance, the things we consume, drugs and so forth, in order, I guess, to prepare us for, let's call it higher learning and ascension? Do you think it is beneficial maybe to have a vegetarian diet? Just putting it out there.
It's important to have a healthy diet. Vegetarian, not necessarily. I go along very much with the idea of the blood group diet. And so, like I'm an A blood group. I'm A positive, and that's really the only blood group that should be vegetarian. Other blood groups, particularly O's, do need meat. Because we are still down here in physical form. We're not up there. We're still down here. And many people do still need to eat meat, so don't feel too bad about it if you can't go vegetarian. I think there was a quote, I think it might have even been Jesus said once, it's not what you put into your mouth, it's what comes out of it. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. I love it. I love it. But yes, I mean, we have to remember our body's a temple and we need to respect it and take care of it.
I've got a question. I'm B negative.
Yes.
RH negative B. Now that was I forget, I had a doctor, an Indian doctor, that I respected greatly, and he was, he could tell you which groups were supposed to eat which foods because of that.
Yeah.
And he said that I can do grains, and there's some things they're not in process, but there's some animal that I can't have, and because we didn't have them then.
Yeah.
It's like the origin of your blood species, your blood type.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, we've come a long way so far already in this conversation, haven't we, guys?
I think so. I think, yeah, absolutely.
If we've got about 15 minutes, or just a little greater than that, before the end of the show, and I was wondering if anyone had any questions that they'd like to call in. We'll take one or two people to call in if you're willing to. If you're on Skype, you can Skype in by adding Freedom Screen to your Skype session, or if you're in the US, please don't hesitate. You can call 347-688-2902.
And we know there are lots of you out there tonight, so feel free. But we do have two questions quickly from the chat room.
Yep.
The first one comes from Tones and Judy. It's about elements. Did the Grace give you any specific messages about the natural elements or how we should interact with them?
You mean the elementals, like nature spirits?
I'm not entirely sure if that's what it means, but okay, yep, let's go with that.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. It's important that we acknowledge that they are real. Again, they're interdimensional, so we can't see them. But yes, they're a very important part of the planet, taking care of the energy of plant life, animal life, mineral kingdom. And it's important for people to understand that all these minerals, plants, animals, they all have consciousness. And this is actually the secret behind a lot of the Zeus's technology, is being able to tap into the consciousness of seemingly inanimate objects. But yes, the elemental kingdom is very real.
So there's quite a bit to say for animistic, I guess, beliefs then, isn't there? Like everything has a spirit, everything is alive to some extent.
Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Yeah. We also have a question from Susan Chancellor, in fact. She's in the chat room right now. And she wanted to ask about the RH negative factor in the blood, of course, with abductees. Do you think there's a connection between RH negative and abductees?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, Suzanne has wanted to Skype in, and I can just actually pull her in. So if we don't mind, I'll pull Suzanne in. Here we go.
Or not?
Or not?
No, but look, let's not have that air, though.
No.
But I think it's important to realize, I think, that there are bloodlines that are important. And I think... well, that's an assumption I have. Judy, do you think that there are certain bloodlines in the world that are, I guess, cared for or looked after by whomever or whatever?
Well, it's more to do with them linking in. There is one group of Greys that do need to link into our energy to help themselves. It's like an exchange program going on, and so those ones would be trying to link into humans who share a particular bloodline. So yes, there is. There's certainly that is going on. And then in turn they're helping us with our spiritual growth. So it's like an exchange program. We're helping them on a genetic level. They're helping us, like physical genetic level. They're helping us on a DNA level. So
I think that's fair. And to be honest with you, I mean, I always had a feeling that something like that might be going on. I mean.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree that this is a fair exchange, maybe even somewhat in our favor. So
I think so.
it's all good. But can I ask you, have you, and this is something that I've experienced doing this show now, being more in the, I mean, nobody knows really who I am except for the people that know my voice, but I have experienced some extreme forms of tiredness, dizziness, even bouts of internally feeling more aggressive, as though an outside force was trying to make me that way. Ever since I've done the show now, do you think there are these entities out there that are trying? Obviously, yes, but specifically targeting people maybe like us?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
A lot of astral plane, it's interference for sure, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Have you had any word about? This is something that the Canadian Defence Minister had mentioned, that there was a few renegade visitors who have, for want of a better word, been in contact with the governments around the world. Oh, we have a caller. It's Jason. Hang on a second. I'll bring him in. Add call to group. There we go.
Hello, Jason. Welcome.
Hey, Jason, you're on the air. What would you like to ask Judy?
Oh, hi. Hi, Judy.
Hi,
Great
Jason.
show. I just wondered if you could go into more about death and why we're so conditioned to fear death. And it's meant to be this big mystery, and religion is based on death. And do you see the control in that and how it connects to exactly what we're talking about?
I'll just get you to reword that question, Jason. I don't quite understand what you're asking.
Oh, okay. To go into detail, more, of what you've learned about what happens when we die and why it's so controlled and made to believe that there's a heaven and a hell, and it's based on religion, and it's obviously we know it's a manipulation, but for some reason we're not allowed to know what happens when we die. There's all these different theories, and they base it on fear, and that it's lights out. So I was wondering if you can elaborate a little about what happens when you die.
Hey, Suzanne, just hang on a sec.
Hey, I'm sorry, I have to figure out how to pause this. Oh my goodness.
Down the bottom of the chat window, you can hit the...
I closed it up. I closed it. It's fine.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you finally.
You too. So Jason, just to elaborate your question again for Judy.
Oh,
for me?
Did you hear,
No.
Judy?
Yeah. Oh, good.
Jason, I don't quite understand what you're asking.
Okay.
Well, I was more, of what you've learned.
Do you have your sound on? Do you have your? Can you still hear the station, Jason? I'd like to ask you to turn it down if you have.
Oh, me?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
Somebody has the radio up. It's not me.
I can hear us from 30 seconds ago too.
It must be Suzanne.
Yeah, it's me.
There you go. That's better. Okay, Jason, go ahead first.
Look, Jason, I can answer what you're talking about. What it is people have to have a certain number of lives on a planet before they can move on. It is sort of, in a way, it is almost like a prison planet down here, because we're not allowed to go into other planetary, cultures that to interfere. So we are confined here. So what happens when we die? We create our own reality. So if we say, for example, we believe in a heaven, with angels and that, so we sort of create that with our own mind. And we stay within that, created sort of dream state until it's time for us to come back again. So it's like we keep getting pulled back. I think that the Buddhists talk about, there's a term they use, it's like a wheel of karma. We keep being drawn back until we have learned certain lessons. And then we start to wake up and we can then move on from there. But yeah, it's a karmic thing. So we sort of have to keep coming back.
Do we remember right away when we died? All of a sudden, is there like a clarification of, oh yeah, this is what it really is? You know what I mean? Here we are in our consciousness.
Yes, some do, some don't. Some do, some don't. A lot of the practices in Buddhism are directed towards what they call the clear light, which means that you keep your consciousness as you pass over into death. You're able to remember. So a lot of their practices are geared towards that. So some people do, some don't. It depends on how far along the line we are, our level of evolution.
Isn't it also true that some people actually carry that memory, to elaborate on this, from life to life? Some very exceptional cases actually do retain knowledge of previous lives, in fact.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. Well, when we're over there, we do. We can remember past lives, but then as we come back, we tend to forget. And it's really a protection thing because, I mean, our human brains would never be able to retain all that. Once we go up to higher levels of consciousness, then yes, we'll have a much more conscious understanding and memory of all these things. But down here, we're trying to struggle along with only 10% conscious awareness, so, we couldn't possibly remember everything.
No, true enough. How is that, Jason? Does that answer your question in a way?
Yeah, I have one more question. It's not weird or anything, but what about sex? Why is there sex? You have a man and a woman. You procreate. The baby comes from the woman. Is there any rhyme or reason to that? And just in how the mechanics of the universe works on an organic human level, like what that means. Like why is there emotion and love and hate and fear, for that matter. But
yeah, well, it's a way on the human level, on the physical human level, it is a way of expressing love. And of course reproduction is also involved. And it's important for love to be there because for a baby to thrive, it needs love and it needs to be born out of love.
So are the Greys unemotional? Are the other races unemotional? Do they have sex? Are they like? What's it like to?
Well, it depends on what level. It depends on what level they are. Up to about the second level of the human ladder, yes, not quite like down here, but yes, there is certainly a connection. The Greys do experience emotion. They experience the higher emotions. They've moved past the lower emotions, but they do experience the higher emotions. They find it very hard to express it in a human way because they haven't got physical bodies like we have. So the musculature in their faces can't express emotion. But if you can link into them on a deeper level, yes, they do. They have very strong emotion of love.
It's important to... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I have to say thank you very much, Jason, for your call. We're going to leave it there with you, and we've got only 5 minutes left. We'd like some time for Suzanne to ask her questions. But I'll leave you on the line, Jason.
All right. Thank you very much for listening. Taking my questions.
Not a problem.
Thanks for dialing in, buddy.
Hey, Suzanne, you're on the air.
Oh, thank you. Hello, Judy, and thank you for having me on the air tonight. How are you?
Hi, Suzanne. I'm really well. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Actually, my question that I was going to ask earlier has now changed based on the last call. So it's really fantastic, actually, because I just had a radio show last week, and we're talking about, you were saying about how we were, like, on this earth, and my guest said to me that we were actually transplanted from another planet in another solar system where there were many, many other planets with other life.
Yes.
We were actually exiled here with no life in our solar system, and I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Yeah. Oh, look, there are. One of the Zeta teachers actually told us once, he said that on the first level of the human ladder, he said there's about 1,000 different life forms. So, yes, there are many, many different ones, and, yes, some of them certainly have been transplanted here. I agree with that.
So we're all almost like banished or exiled to this like barren solar system, and for something we did that was wrong. And I don't know if you actually heard anything about that.
No, I don't. I wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't quite agree with that. We're here because we're in the process of evolving.
I believe that.
Yeah, planet Earth is a school planet. That's why there's so many choices down here. Very, very much a choice planet. Because, of course, evolution is all to do with choosing, as I say, love over fear. So we are presented with a whole lot of different choices, and it's just part of our growth.
And as we're evolving, they are as well, correct?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking my call, and I will talk to you guys in a couple of weeks, yeah?
Looking forward to it.
Oh, Suzanne,
Okay.
thank you very much. And yes, we can't wait.
It will be very interesting. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
You
or
too.
morning.
Just-
Okay, good night.
Just on what Suzanne said, and then something about love. Sorry, just quickly, because we have not much time. What she pointed out is actually one of the fundamental tenets for what the Scientologists believe, that a group of Thetans was exiled here some time ago and has since been kept here. So it's interesting that this thought is out there. But also, there in Greek, in the Greek language, ancient Greek, there's like 6 or 7 different words for love. We discussed love earlier, and I think, Judy, you're absolutely 100% correct. It's very difficult to express different kinds of love when, for us, in the English language field, there's only one word, really, right? And it has all these sexual connotations, which are not necessarily love.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's true, though, and love is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So, and this is really important, guys. The higher dimensions, it's not physical love that they talk about. It's the love of a father for a child, a mother for a child, the love of you have for your pet. There's charitable love that you feel for someone less fortunate. Things like that. I think, anyway.
Unconditional love.
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also an ability for us if you want to experience it, and that is what I was taught. And if you imagine where your heart is outside of that, being able to, like a camera, not a lens, but the optical mechanics that allows the old-fashioned camera to open up and close again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're able to hold that open, and if you have to physically imagine this, to being able to hold it open, you'll find that there's even a higher, more powerful love that will be projected forward.
Yeah.
It's not just the pinhole of light that's the breather that is what you sustain from day to day. So it's an amazing thing. So the chakras is all about bringing light in, the power of light in, aligning yourself to be able to retransmit that. But there's also that love that you can accelerate the power of it. It's amazing, and that's what I was taught.
Yes.
But is that similar? Is that a similar story? Oh, we've got about a minute.
Oh, yeah. that sounds very much what I've heard too. That's how the ETs talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Opening up to love, and it's a free will choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we finish off, David, could I just give our website out? We have a couple
Absolutely.
of websites. The first one is called ufograyinfo.com, and that's Grey, spelled the Aussie or English way, ufograyinfo.com. And the other one is thezetamessage.com. And we have a lot of information up on those websites that people want to go in and have a look. They can order the books through the websites and just have a look through them.
And the links will be in the show notes and on our site, guys. So
I just posted them into the chat room.
Fantastic. But they will be in the show notes and in shinysite.com as well. Shiny-Side Art, I should say. So they will be there. So if you didn't have time to write it down right now, don't panic. Just come to the website. Just quickly, thank you very, very, very much, Judy. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure.
No, it was not ours.
It's all ours.
We'll have Lloyd Pye next week. It's a pre-recorded interview, so dialing in won't work. But we're lucky enough to talk to Lloyd about a number of things, including the Star Child skull and interventionism. These are all topics that flow nicely into each other. Dave, should we have... are we still here?
Yes, we're still on.
Oh, okay, sorry, it's so quiet.
I don't know if Tones or Justin has prevented the thing from going on.
Okay.
It sounds like he has. So we've got a few more minutes. Let's say that so we have the show notes. We've got YouTube. We've got Facebook, Twitter. We're doing some more things. So keep in touch with us. Join us on our webpage. And for all of the other contact methods that you've got us. We have to thank Judy and Suzanne, and she's also coming up as a guest in an upcoming show in 2 weeks' time. And so Lloyd Pye, like we said, it was a surprise. He fell into our lap. We got the interview. It was with him instead of Amy. We wanted Amy anyway, but yeah, it was amazing. So look forward to that. We can't really give you any hints on it, but it's the Star Child's skull. Something great about cheetahs. Sorry, cheetahs.
It's cheetahs, yeah, absolutely.
And the interventionist connection with this, and hopefully this thread is continuing. It's getting longer. It's going through more things, and really we're holistically putting a picture together for you guys to understand where we're at with our research as well.
Yeah, and we will have some more information on the awareness cascade we spoke about some shows ago. It is, Dave and I believe, and Judy, please chime in if you think we're totally off our rocker, but we think that the human race and our spiritual, I guess, cohesiveness is coming to a critical mass, right? There's going to be lots of people on the world, I guess 8 billion we're approaching, and I recently tried to come up with some algorithms that would show when this cascade would happen. I've done some preliminary work, and it looks like 2015 or 2016. Which means it could be a point of ascension, maybe not, I don't know, I'm just still checking my math. I'm just essentially trying the Fibonacci sequences on population. I don't know, Judy, do you have a view on awareness that it might be rising within the human race?
It sounds like it, yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh, dear.
All right. Well, I think I haven't been able to get onto the server for the automated ads to kick off for us to go onto auto server, and it looks like we won't be going to an automation since we can't find the thing. Looks like Nighthawk's gone. He's the station and he's asleep. Goodness me, it's pretty late for you guys. All right. Well, okay. I'm just told just to keep going until we hear the music.
Yeah, look, and just in time. Look, happy to. Certainly, I think that there's many more things that I'd love for Judy to explain to us. I mean, one of them would be something that I didn't get to ask about. Where do you think the Men in Black come in?
They're from down here. They're a life form that's been created down here.
Right. And they're part of the control mechanism we mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yes. And because the Zeta teachers dress in black, there's a bit of an interference thing going on there.
Okay. So colours, this we didn't touch on either. Colours are very important, aren't they? In all of this?
They are. Extremely important. Yes. That's why the Zeta teachers dress in black, because black is sort of, it's not reflecting any of the colours, whereas white reflects all the colours. Black sort of contains all the colours. I know that's not quite correct, but it's a difficult way of expressing it. But the teachers can actually project whatever colour you need. So, for example, my teacher projects blue to me to help me with my throat chakra.
Okay, so I heard about that. It's the healing, right?
Yeah, for healing, for balancing.
Yeah. Because to be blunt, we've got pretty primitive methods of healing here, especially Western medicine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my wife is Chinese, so I'm very familiar with, in fact, traditional Chinese. And a lot of the, I guess, medicine that the Chinese use is herbal-based. And they're not really interested in looking at your symptoms or fixing your symptoms. They're looking at the root cause. And it's only now, I think, that Western medicine is catching up to some extent to that kind of understanding, I guess.
Yes, that's right, for sure. Yeah, and I mean, the two complement each other so beautifully.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why natural therapies and Western medicine can't work hand in hand.
Having said that, though, there's an active force at work, and certainly in the United States, that is trying to, I guess, kill that approach, right? To shut down people that have alternative medicines available, alternative cures.
Yeah. Yes, I think they're doing the same thing here. There was an article against it in the paper just last week.
You're right. It's around vitamins and holistic. You're also correct. It's happening as well. It's a profit motive, though, I think.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah, I think traditional medicine's afraid that natural will take over. They feel threatened by it.
Yeah, and then, so goes the profit. That's no good, is it? No, look, you're absolutely right.
One of the things that has come up, and we've seen it over and over again, the talk doesn't end, it seems to just be going on, and that's about the military connection and reverse engineered technology, and what I was going before about the renegades and the Canadian Defence Minister having said the same thing. He mentioned that quote. Is in your impression, or if your information leads you in the same direction, is it something that that you're familiar with, or?
No, not really, David. We don't deal with that side of it at all. We just try and sort of deal with the spiritual side of it, because I know, there's a lot of misinformation. One person says one thing, one says something else, and there's a lot of some finger pointing and that going on. So we try and just keep right out of that side of it.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's definitely, if the military's involved, there's certainly not going to be love. We have a cluster bomb full of love. That's what we need.
Hey, Judy.
Go ahead,
Hey,
Jason.
Judy. Oh, thanks. Hey, Judy, have you heard of Matthias de Stefano?
Say that one again?
Matthias de Stefano.
No, I haven't.
You can Google him. Matthias de Stefano. He is an Argentinian. He's just a boy, and he's an indigo child, and he recalls the Arctic records and all of. He just recalls everything, and he gives talks and seminars. He doesn't speak English, but his name is Matthias de Stefano. Have you guys heard of him?
No, I'm just trying to find it now. Certainly, we are familiar with the indigo children phenomenon, but Matthias, I'm not. Here we go. I found Matthias de Stefano. Yes.
Yeah.
Got him. And that's unfortunately in Spanish. Oh man, it's all in Spanish. I'll try to find an English profile.
Get the same person that's doing the Admiral Byrd translation to help you out with that, or Google Translate.
There are a couple of YouTube videos here. Matthias de Stefano, Atatumti Haranka Universal. I think that's him. He's a young-looking fellow. Is that correct, Jason? 22?
Yeah.
He's 22, right?
Yep.
Okay,
He's been doing this since he was 5. Like,
right.
His mother documented everything. He was drawing pictures of the archons and all. He didn't forget when he was born, basically.
Okay, and that's the limitation of my Spanish. I can say he's 22 years old. Okay, no, look, this is new information. Thank you, Jason, to me at least. I was aware of an indigo child in India. I can't recall the name now, but he was essentially sitting for months and months near a tree, and he was meant to be an incarnation of the Buddha, and I haven't heard anything else on that either. I'm not surprised any of this information did not come to the English-speaking world, though. I can tell you that. Okay, look, I will definitely follow this up. In fact, this might be a whole different show here. Sorry, Judy, or in fact, Dave, have you heard anything about this?
No, it's empty to me. I've got nothing. I think we'll do some research and include that in a future show.
100%. 100%.
So Judy, in your book, because we could just go until you need to go. We're at the station will just go to dead air if we're the last show on. Normally they go to a retransmission of something else after our show. So if you feel comfortable, keep going. That's fine. We will open up a chat window inside Skype, and we can communicate outside of what the listeners can hear as well. In the Human by Day, Zeta by Night, is there something else you can give us as a hint for our listeners that would be lovely?
Well, I can talk about it just a little bit more. As I say, I was asked to write this book just to give out more communication and information from the Zetas. They wanted it written, presented from their side, just to try and clear up some of the fear and misunderstandings. And they suggested that it be written as fiction because of this, the fact that it was written from their perspective. And also, by writing it as fiction, it's allowed readers to actually step inside the Zeta mind. It's like a virtual reality experience of actually being a Zeta. And it's also allowed me to get information across in a format that's more easily understood by Earth people. It makes it easier to read. And I did that also to appeal to a wider readership. But it is based very firmly on our true story, the Zeta message. And the Zeta message is actually the real-life story of myself as an experiencer, plus the story of my co-author, Helene Kay, whose family underwent profound and fully conscious contact starting in the year 2000. The Zeta message is also very full of information, particularly to help families with children undergoing ET contact, because the 2 children in the family were the focus of the contact. And there's heaps of detailed advice and explanations on what happens and how to deal with it, etc., to help people move past the fear. So there's a lot of information in both books.
That's very powerful stuff, and it's certainly something that's in my world.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Yeah.
we have been told by previous or by a previous guest to get regression. Well, in fact, it wasn't. I think it was Justin who told us to do it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Do you think that is a wise thing to do? I haven't done it myself. Do you think it's a wise thing to have hypnotic regression to see if anything?
Look, it can be, but what people need to understand is that even under hypnosis, in a hypnotic trance, we still tend to, how can I say, we sort of translate experiences that have happened to us through the lens of our own subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
So things don't necessarily come out as accurate as we think they would.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I remember hearing about a psychologist talking about this. I think Dolores Cannon, spoke about it, and she actually takes subjects past hypnosis. And she was hypnotising people, and yeah, information was coming out, but it just didn't always sound right, and different people coming up with different stories, and there was a lot of fear involved, which was sort of blocking them. And then she found some technique where she was able to actually move people past the fear, and a much deeper understanding of the contact experience came out of this, and it just changed her whole perspective as far as I understand.
Yeah, I had regression and stopped it at the point when it was apparent that it was real.
Yeah.
And it broke the fear barrier, and
yes.
Now that I don't have any fear about it, I'm completely okay.
Yes, that's the key to it.
Mm-hmm. And I found a lot of circles that are just not the circles that you're involved with, but the circles, the groups, the UFO support, experience the support groups.
Yeah.
They don't have a positive outcome. There's a lot of story crossing, but you only need one negative in the group and you can bring the group down, or people focus on those negatives.
Absolutely.
Rather than a seminar type of thing, or your book, in fact, and I think that's the most important part, is the book and the understanding of it, right?
Yeah.
So and we're limited in Australia, unfortunately, because of our population size, that we don't have a great majority of these support groups. And I was lucky enough not to have attended those.
Yeah.
And fought my own battle to get to here. And you did the same, yeah?
Yes. I did have some time in the support group, and we ended up stopping going because they seem to focus on all the drama of the negative side of it. But if you have positive experiences, no one seems to be interested in listening. And they don't realise that there's just so much information and teaching in there if they will listen to people who've moved past that fear barrier instead of focusing on that.
Mm-hmm. But see, it's the same. That's human nature, though. If there's an accident, we'll all stop and slow down, right? Oh, well, I don't because I make conscious of it naturally. But it's just this thing. I mean, the news only sells if there's blood on it, right? Nobody wants to hear a positive story. It's terrible how we've been brainwashed in that way.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
You know, look, I have high hopes. I really have high hopes because Dave is right. People are now more aware, or becoming more aware. Listening to this show, I can tell you we've got close to 5,000 people right now listening, and there'll be knock-on as well going forward. And see, if even only one or two people take something on board from this, I think we have already won. You know, we can potentially change someone's outlook on life.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say, in connection with the positive and negative side of things, people often ask, well, how do I know what information is correct? And what we always say is, tune into it. Is it coming from love or is it coming from fear? Mm-hmm. That's really the key to knowing what information is correct and what's not. Oh,
absolutely. Now, you mentioned this before. I mentioned this before about the knocking sound. I just wanted I wanted you to expand on that.
Yes, well, the greys often will make like a series of knocks when they're coming in. It's almost like they knock on the door. Mm-hmm. And it's often 3 knocks, 6 knocks, 9 knocks. It's always in a series of 3. And I remember it happened to me. I was actually sitting in a meditation group one night. And one of the greys was going to do some channeling through me. I could feel him hanging around. And the next thing, I sort of hadn't gone off at that point. And the next thing, there were these 3 massive knocks from inside a cupboard. We all jumped. And then I sort of felt him then come in and overshadow me, and it all happened very quickly. And back at that time, I hadn't even read about the 3 knocks. I had no idea that it was like a message that they were coming in. But when I read about it years later, I thought, oh, wow, that was what that was all about.
Wow. Suzanne, would you like to say anything at this point?
I'm still here, right. We're talking about numbers, and it's really interesting about the 3s because I think there's something to be said about that because I've always had beings come to me in 3s. I had in 1986 3 blue little Smurfs come to me, okay? And that involved my daughter, actually, when she was 3 years old at the time, which is very odd.
Oh, wow, Dave, you got to... Yeah. Sorry, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I'll back this one up at the end, yeah.
Okay, we're still on?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I had this a visitation, and they came to my bed, and they told me that my daughter was throwing up. And all of a sudden, I snapped out of it and went in her room, and she was throwing up. In the morning, she told me that she had 3 blue beings come to her. And she was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And it was at 3:33.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Judy, tell me, please.
You can count on your fingers, but it's the rule of the thumb.
Okay.
Profound once again, Jason.
I don't even know where to go with that one.
No. Suzanne, I have the same thing where, completely. My daughter mentioned at one point in her life, which was around about right on 5, she'd mentioned in the past that her friends had come at night, and then suddenly it turned into, after the scream and my experience, the screaming night, where their experience changed. Then she described them as not her friends anymore, and then subsequently after that, she said the little bears, the small bears that take her away and bring her back.
Oh, wow.
Right? And the bears are the blue dudes.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah. Right?
That's so fascinating.
And Whitley talks about the blue dudes who do the lifting.
I know. I talked to Whitley about that, actually.
Yeah.
They're extremely rare, though. They're extremely, extremely rare, those guys. I mean, you hardly hear about any encounters, so this is something special.
Yeah.
There was something about them that I thought was really, really interesting is my experiences with the Greys have always been very malevolent and not a great experience. But with her telling me about them, I didn't want to alarm her at all. And I was just really, really fascinated by the fact that we shared an experience together. And I didn't want to scare her, but I asked her what they were doing. And she told me that they were smelling her and that they were telling her that they loved her. And so all of a sudden I'm getting this feeling of these beings with her, but in a loving way. Mm-hmm. in my experience as a child, when I was 4, it was anything but that.
Exactly, same as me.
Yeah, so I could not comprehend where all of a sudden, all these years later, they're coming to her, but in a very, very benevolent way. Or were they tricking her?
Is it a screen memory? Is
Exactly.
It
But she was 3, and it was the next day, so
yeah.
hardly a screen memory. I think it was like basically total recall.
Yeah. So
That's
Judy,
creepy that she was smelling. They were smelling her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She said smelling.
Yes.
Wow.
So Judy,
Disturbing.
part of your the Zeta message.
Yeah.
Was it Zeta Human by Night, Human by Day?
Yeah.
You're talking about the support role that the adults play as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you mean like adults for children, when children are having contact experiences.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, for a start, it's really important to believe them, not just say, oh, just imagination, just a dream, because in a lot of cases it is a real experience. So what Helene, my co-author, did with her children, because her children, particularly her son, went through a huge amount of fear. He used to go into these sort of trance states where he'd see beings in the room and communicate with them, and he was absolutely terrified. So Helene used to just keep saying to him, look, remember the love, remember the love conquers all. And over time, the fear gradually dissipated until one night he was actually able to tune in to one of the theatre teachers, and she touched him on the hand. And it was just amazing. After that, all these scary trances stopped completely. And his experiences after that were much more positive, and he was fine with it after that. So it was like breaking down a communication barrier of some sort.
Oh, that's awesome. My little girl had precog. She fell down the stairs in our house, and when she stood up, we brushed her off. There was no injuries whatsoever, and she was surprised, not upset. And I said, what's wrong? And she goes, I dreamt last night that I fell down the stairs. And I said, well, you know what? That's it's not going to happen again, so it's all good. And I gave her a cuddle. And my partner came up to me, and I had the family talk at 13 when I saw something in advance, and to advertise that to my family, and they sat me down and gave me the family talk, and I gave her the family talk at 3. I said, you might see stuff in your dreams that might be real. You come to me and you talk with me and I'll help you.
Yeah, that's really important to get them to communicate.
So it's awesome stuff. I don't know where I learnt all. I think parenting is a tough enough job on its own, but parenting with special environment around you, that's the best way of putting it, is even harder.
Oh yeah.
So where can people find your book?
Oh, well, they can go into Amazon. They're available on Amazon. They're available through the book depository. They're available as ebooks through Kindle. They can go into the website and order them, I think, via the website. They're also available through a bookstore chain in the US, Barnes & Noble. So they're fairly easy to get onto.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, guys, I think what we'll do, we might wrap it up at the 6:30 mark, yeah? For our time. So, Suzanne, that's 5 minutes time.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
It's not hard, yeah. Cool.
Okay, so we have Judy Carroll on, we have Suzanne, Meki and myself, and our show has in the chat room that described it as the Experiencer Roundtable.
It is, though.
Perfect.
It is.
Love it.
It does sound fantastic. I think maybe
Where's
we could
Arthur?
expand. Sorry?
I said, where's King Arthur?
Dave, sorry, we're on Revolution Radio, aren't we? freedomslips.com.
Absolutely. If you're listening to this on a podcast or on YouTube, please join the chat live. We're on between 4 and 6 on Sundays in Australia. In America, in California, it's between 11 and 1 a.m. on a Saturday night. And on the Eastern, it's between 2 and 4 a.m. Eastern.
And I would like to make just one point to everybody listening. Now, we've got 3 experienced experiences, if you want to call it that, without being double Dutch here. It is very important to understand that this is part of their lives. My experiences are very limited in comparison, but I don't doubt it because I've seen things and I've experienced things. So, guys, on the radio, this is not just entertainment. This is someone's life. We're talking about people's life experiences, okay? If you have those as well, let us know. If you want, dial in. But let's not dismiss this. Let's not assume, oh, you know what? Nobody knows what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. I think that is wrong. These people are opening themselves up to you, to share with you what is going on. This is very, very deep stuff. I just want appreciation for this, that's all.
Hey, thanks, Mickey.
I agree.
So, yeah. I've actually found tonight really...
Therapeutic?
Well, it is for me. Any discussion about the topic itself is in a positive light as therapy. How about you, Judy?
Oh, it's been fantastic. It's just lovely to be able to talk like this with other people and exchange views and yeah, it's lovely. Very positive.
Yeah, so true, so true.
Okay, so look, let's recap again for the listeners what's going to be on next week. I have to thank both Judy, Susan, and Jason. Thanks, Jason, for calling in. Thank you, everyone in the chat room has contributed to the show. Thank you, Susan. We look forward to the interview on the 16th. I think that's the date.
Thank you so much, David.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you. Judy, thank you very much. I so appreciate the signed copies, and they're going on my shelf after I've read them.
I'm glad you enjoyed them.
I'm halfway through. The first book, and I like to read them in chronological order. It's therapy for me. It's as striking as my first experience when I read through it, and it's extraordinary just how similar our lives are. But yes. I'm one generation down from Judy in that you've got the circles. My mother had the circles, and it's an eye opener.
Yeah.
I have to thank you very much, and it's an honour having you on our show. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
So let's just to say to everyone that's listening once again, we have Lloyd Pye. It was a pre-recorded interview, so when we say we post stuff in the chat room, I'll still be posting stuff in the chat, but we won't be able to do any live communication back to Lloyd. We're very, very lucky to have him online. He's going to make a large announcement. You'll hear this on the show in roughly 2 weeks now, I think 3 weeks' time, to his findings that he's come across. Please, if you're into genetics, if you like DNA, we've talked about DNA tonight,